DVB Digital Fast.
Hello and welcome to the DVB Newsroom. I'm your host Nora. On November 27, 2024, the ICC Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan requested an arrest warrant for Min Aung Hlaing for the charge of crimes against humanity committed against the Rohingya. This dates back to 2017, when Myanmar military operations were carried out in Rakhine State. Joining me today to give an update on this case is ICC spokesperson Oriane Maye. Thanks for being here today, Oriane.
Good morning.
Let's start with this. What's the latest on the warrant application for Min Aung Hlaing, who has now assumed the role of Myanmar president?
On 27th of November 2024, the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court announced that he was filing an application for an arrest warrant before the judges of the ICC. And he's alleging that Mr. Hlaing bears criminal responsibility for crimes against humanity, which is the deportation and the persecution of the Rohingya committed in Myanmar and in part in Bangladesh. So the office alleges that these crimes were committed between 25 of August 2017 and the 31st of December 2017. And this by the armed forces of Myanmar, the Tatmadaw, and supported by the national police, the border guard police, and non-Rohingya civilians. So the process at the ICC is such that once the prosecutor requested an arrest warrant to be issued, it is for the judges of the court to check if there's enough evidence, if the application meets the necessary standards for the issuance of the arrest warrant. They must have reasonable grounds to believe that this person committed the crimes. We are there, so the application is pending before the ICC judges, and due to issues of confidentiality, I'm not able to comment further on this application. But what I can tell you is that the work of the ICC is continuing. On the side of communications and engagement, the court has been engaging very regularly with stakeholders, including with Rohingya communities, to raise awareness about the work of the court and about where we are at. And our conversation today is also very important in that regard.
Typically, how long does the judge's decision take in cases like this?
There's no time frame set for this decision, and it will really depend on the circumstances of each case.
Does holding the position of president give him any kind of immunity under the international law?
The application is pending before the judges, and that the decision of the judges on whether or not to issue the arrest warrant is solely based on the evidence. And the fact that this person's election was announced doesn't change the fact that an arrest warrant was requested against him. And the founding treaty of the ICC, the Rome Statute, outlines that the ICC applies equally to all persons without any distinction based on official capacity.
The warrant is for crimes against humanity committed against Rohingya in 2017. May there be any investigation into further crimes like those following the 2021 Myanmar military coup?
Myanmar is not a party to the ICC, which means that the investigation of the Office of the Prosecutor of the ICC is limited to alleged crimes in Myanmar that were committed partly on the territory of Bangladesh. The focus of the investigation of the Office of the Prosecutor is on the events in Rakhine State and what brought the Rohingya people to Bangladesh in 2016 and 17. They are firmly committed to ongoing investigations in this situation. Mm-hmm. The office is monitoring the situation in Myanmar following the coup and is aware that thousands of Rohingya who have crossed the border into Bangladesh. So the Office of the Prosecutor is assessing the situation and will determine possible further steps in the period to come.
Has anything changed at the ICC as other warrants have been issued, yet the one against Min Aung Hlaing has not?
The ICC is a judicial institution. It relies on cooperation with states parties to execute its decisions. Now, relating to possible other warrants, etc., I'm not in a position to comment anything that wouldn't be in the public domain.
If the ICC does issue the arrest warrant for Min Aung Hlaing, how would it pursue his arrest?
The court is the legal institution, and anything related to arrest, for anything related to arrest, the ICC relies on cooperation with states parties and other partners to execute its legal decisions. And that includes the execution of arrest warrants. And this is a legal obligation for states under the Rome Statute. In case of non-cooperation, generally the ICC judges may make a finding to that effect and inform the Assembly of States Parties, which is the political body, that a certain state is not cooperating with the court. And then it is for the Assembly of States Parties to take any measures that it deems appropriate. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that once an arrest warrant is issued, this warrant is valid for life.
Does that mean if he steps foot in any of the member countries, they are legally bound to detain him?
The 125 states parties to the ICC have a legal obligation to cooperate with the ICC.
If he simply never travels to an ICC member state, what happens to the case? Does it just sit in limbo?
The ICC may not judge persons in their absence. It's one of the principles of the court that accused persons shall attend their trial. And what I just mentioned, arrest warrants are for life. So who knows how things will evolve? We really count on states parties to arrest accused persons, suspected persons.
How does this case relate to others like that of former Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte?
These are two separate cases before the ICC. The case of Mr. Duterte relates to another investigation, another conflict, which is before the ICC, the situation in the Philippines. And we are in another phase for Mr. Duterte because, as you may know, we recently held a confirmation of charges hearing in that case. And we're expecting a decision by the ICC judges on whether or not to move this case to trial. He's suspected of crimes against humanity, murder, and attempted murder allegedly committed in the Republic of the Philippines. Mm-hmm. So now we're expecting a decision from the ICC judges, and we'll hear whether or not we can move to trial for Mr. Duterte.
In cases where a state withdraws from the Rome Statutes or refuses to cooperate, what tools does the ICC actually have to enforce its mandate?
Well, you mentioned withdrawal, which is a sovereign right of the state. So a state has a right to join the ICC, but also to withdraw. However, when they do so, anything that happened during the time the state was a party to the ICC can be looked at. And also the entry into force of the withdrawal is 1 year after the withdrawal. Regarding cooperation and non-cooperation, the ICC judges, as the legal institution, can make a finding that certain state has not cooperated, but it is then for the Assembly of States Parties or the UN Council to take any action they deem necessary regarding this non-cooperation.
Would a referral of Myanmar from the UN Security Council make the ICC move faster in this case?
It is not about moving faster. It's really about as a judicial institution, looking at the evidence for investigations, talking to the different witnesses, building strong cases, and moving to fair and impartial proceedings. So once we have a confirmation of charges and then a trial, making sure that both the defense and the prosecution have the time to present their case, and for the judges to make an impartial decision at the end of the process.
If the UN Security Council were to issue a referral, how does that legally change the scope of what the ICC can investigate in Myanmar?
Well, the difference for referrals by the United Nations Security Council is that the ICC then can look at events that happened on the territory of non-state bodies, which is usually something the court cannot do. So it does give jurisdiction for the court to look at events, but in any case, the decision to open an investigation or not is always for the Office of the Prosecutor to decide.
A warrant for Min Aung Hlaing and 24 other Myanmar military and government officials was issued by a court in Argentina last year. This is under a legal principle called universal jurisdiction. Could this assist the ICC warrant?
Well, the ICC cannot work alone. So in general, we welcome any initiatives that complement the work of the court. So it means national courts, it means regional courts looking at grave crimes such as crimes against humanity, war crimes, or genocide. Yes, the ICC will not be able to judge all ongoing conflicts, and indeed it works in partnerships, in complementarity with institutions. And actually, the principle of the ICC is the one of a court of last resort, meaning that if the state is willing and is able to investigate and prosecute, then the ICC would not step in. So it's really as a last resort when victims have nowhere else to go.
Can evidence from Argentina's case be shared with the ICC?
I'm not able to elaborate on evidence and on this case in particular, but I can tell you that indeed the Office of the Prosecutor is collaborating with stakeholders worldwide to make sure that it receives the right information to do its work.
What's next for the ICC in regard to Myanmar or the case against Min Aung Hlaing?
We will have to wait and see when and if a decision is made public by the ICC judges. And we will continue to engage with the different communities to make sure that the work of the court is understood. And overall, we are now investigating in 13 other countries in the world. Countries such as the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ukraine, Central African Republic, Venezuela. So we have a lot of other investigations ongoing and different cases at different stages of proceedings. Our judges are also busy with reparations proceedings in certain cases. So the court is really busy continuing its work to investigate and prosecute grave crimes.
As you have mentioned earlier, how is the ICC communicating with the Rohingya communities who are awaiting justice?
Well, we have engagement with communities. Those can be in person or online. And yes, indeed, we are engaging to make sure the communities know their rights and what they can expect of the process at the ICC.
Before we end, is there anything else you would like to add?
Well, first of all, thank you for this opportunity to explain the work that we're conducting. And as I mentioned, we cannot do our work alone. So we're relying on partnerships around the world, and all this to really participate to fight impunity for the gravest crimes. and holding responsible people so that these crimes don't happen again. And even if we're carrying our mission, making progress in this mission, really, we cannot reach these goals alone.
Thank you very much for your time, Oriane.
Thank you, Nora.